Hello everyone, my name is Esther Lizardo. I'm a front-end intern at Hanko, and today I would like to show you how to integrate Hanko with an existing Next app. At the same time, I would try to guide you on how to code a to-do app. So here's what we're going to build. A beautiful login handled by the Hanko Web component to manage the authentication, where we can log in with a passkey or with a third party like Google. Once we're in, we're going to have a super easy to make and fully functional to-do app where you're going to be able to create a new to-do, checked when it's completed, or deleted whenever you want. Also, I want to display the Hanko profile component where you can manage your emails and passkeys. And I'm also implementing the logout functionality. Stay with me to see how this is made. Two things that I would like to suggest you to have handy for this project. First is to have the Hanko docs handy. We're going to use the Next.js guide to implement the components in our to-do app. And the second thing will be having a Hanko API URL running. We have a video explaining how to create a project on the Hanko cloud. You can either watch the video or you can just go to the cloud.hanko.io, create an account, or start a Hanko project so you can have your API URL ready for when the moment is right. The next thing I want to have clear before we move on is the design or the user interface. So let's go to the to-do pages. Here you can see it's a very simple minimalistic design. It's a container that is centered with a heading which refers to what I'm displaying here, which are my to-dos, a form that is going to handle the creation of the new to-do, and this space is to display the list of to-do items that we created. Every to-do item is going to have a checkbox to mark when it's completed and a delete button. Now let's work to bring functionality to everything that we have here. Now I need a database to store all the to-dos that I create together with the changes that I make to them. For that, let's open a new terminal and I will install Prisma. Now with this command, I'm telling Prisma which database provider I want to use. And it's going to be SQLite. If you noticed, this last command just created the Prisma directory with the Prisma schema inside and the .m file referring to the database as the file dev.db. This file still does not exist, but for some reason this is pointing out to it. Let's go back to the Prisma schema. Here we need to create a model for the to-do items that we will create. So for most of this project, I will just bring the content that I have stored somewhere else, paste it, and then I will explain what is going on there. You can also find the code source for this application below the video. So let me just bring you the to-do model. For each item to do that I create, I want to have an ID, a title, and a complete property. Then it will also include the creation and updating real time. And that should be it for now. Now, we still don't have a database running, and we haven't called any migration yet. So let's do it. So this command did two things. One, it created this migration directory with the migration SQL file inside for all the Prisma migration. And it also started the database inside of our Prisma directory with the same file name that we saw before in our .m file, dev.db. Before moving on from the Prisma topic, the hot reload of Next.js sometimes causes the project to create multiple instances for the Prisma client. To avoid this, in the Prisma docs, there's a section dedicated to a best practice on how to initiate a Prisma client. And let's just follow it. So it says that at the same level of the app directory, here, we create a file called dv.ts. And we bring the following code inside. And what it mostly does is that it imports the Prisma client, it stores the client in a global variable, and it's creating one Prisma client instance. And after that creation, every time we call it, it's just going to be running whatever code we bring to Prisma from the same instance, avoiding us to have 10 or 20 Prisma instances running in our app. Once the database is running and everything is managed, I would like to focus on the important thing, giving my to-dos functionality. Before moving forward, I would like to start breaking this down into components because I don't want this code to be too long. So let me remove this from here, whole form. And for this, I will go to the component and I will create a new directory called to-dos, where everything to-do related will be stored. And new to-do, I think is a good name for this component. And we return this. And now I import it. Great. And I want to do the same with this item that I have hard coded. Remove it and create as well a to-do item component. For me, it's always easy to break things down into smaller pieces before I start working in them. Some people go all the way to the end and then they go back on the steps, and break things down. But I like to do it this way. And now I import it. This is looking good. Now I would like to work in the creation of a new to-do. At this point where I am breaking things down, I think it's a good point to introduce you to the route handlers. So in the app directory of Next.js, the API handlers are replaced by what are called route handlers. And this is how they work. Inside the app directory, somewhere, let me just create this API folder. Inside of it, I would like to create a to-do directory. And inside that to-do directory, I want two route handlers. One that should be, in the main level. Oh, sorry, here. To handle the creation of a new to-do. And I would like to have a dynamic route handler that is going to handle everything related to a specific to-do, like updating or deleting the to-do. So inside of the to-do folder, let me create a dynamic one by ID with another route handler inside of it. Wait. Since what I want to work is in the creation of a new to-do, let me first bring here what I need for Prisma to create that new to-do. The first thing is that I need to import next response from the next server. And I also need to import that Prisma client instance that we created in the DB file. And now this is the function that is going to make the magic happen. Every time that we are fetching this route handler, we need to send a title, and Prisma will use that title to create a new to-do, and the complete property that we set in our model to-do will be by default false, which means that every time we create a new to-do, by default, the checkbox is going to be empty. And this is how this is going to be triggered from our form. In order to handle the creation of the to-do from here, I need to change a few things. First of all, I need to add the use client directive on top of the file to make sure the Next knows that this is a client component, because I'm going to use a React hook and I can't use hooks inside of server component. I'm going to need the use state hook from React, because here I'm going to have this. I want to create this constant, new item, set new item, and this is going to be equal by default to an empty string. Now, to our form, I need to change a few things. First is I need a value. This value is going to be equal to the new item. And then when this change, I need to send a function to set the new item to the value of this target. And to make this all effective, I need to bring the following function. Yeah, I need to import router. Import. Oops. Oh, but I need to bring this from next navigation. Yeah, all correct. So the create function that I'm not calling yet anywhere, it's going to make a fetch request to the API to-do endpoint that we created to tell Prisma that with this title that we are sending, that is stored in the new item property, create a new to-do for us, and then that new to-do is created and stored. Use router is going to refresh the page, and then we're going to set this new item that we will have here to an empty string again. And to make this effective, let me just add here and submit event listener that calls the create function. And let me test it. If I do this, apparently nothing is going on. Nothing is going on. But if I open my terminal and I go here, for example, which is a server component still, I can try to call Prisma and tell Prisma to tell me the list of every item that I have stored. To do that, I first need to make this function async. And here, I can call this constant to-dos. It's going to be equal. I'm going to be waiting for Prisma to go through my to-dos and find many. This will actually be finding all. Oh, and I need here again to import the Prisma instance from the DB file. And now let me log the to-dos. Yes, and just as I said, it seemed like nothing is going on every time I bring something here, but in fact, Prisma is already creating in the database a new to-do every time we hit the submit button. So, as we establish in the module to-do, every item has an ID, which is a string, a title, which is also a string, a complete property, which is a boolean, by default is always false, and the creation and updating data. The first step to display all of my to-dos will be passing all of my to-dos to the to-do items. Well, yes. It is complaining because the to-do items is not ready to receive anything. But before this, let me just bring the same directive because I'm going to be using hooks probably here too. And I need to import my to-do model from my Prism client. Yeah. And now here I can say that I'm going to be receiving to-dos, and all of those to-dos are no other thing that add to-do array. To display properly all of the to-dos, I'm going to be mapping through the list of to-do and displaying the list of them. And this is how it's going to be. I'm going to call map function, and I'm going to say to-dos.map, and it's going to return a to-do function. Yes, and I'm going to grab all this because this is what I want to be returned. Yes. Yes. And I will just replace the text here by the to-do dot title. This is looking better. Here, before it starts complaining, I know I need a key. So the key is going to be the to-do.id because that's the unique property. I'm also going to bring the to-do.id property here in the label where it has the HTML form for, which is empty. Oops. I'll replace it to for the to-do.id. And I need to add some things here in this checkbox input. I need to add the checked property, and it's going to be equal to to-do dot complete. And now that I've added the checked property here to the input, if I go in my console, it should be, yes. I was like, why is it not complaining? It is complaining because it's telling me that I have provided a checked property to a form without an onChange handler. And it makes complete sense. It's like you're telling me that it must receive the property, but there's nothing handling it. Right now it's broken. But if I remove this, even though I comment this out, even though I can now see all of the to-dos that I'm creating, if I update them and then I refresh, nothing is going on. It's not being stored. And this needs to be worked on. That's why once I add this is complaining like, hey, you add this property, but you're not doing anything with else. Therefore, it's going to be broken. So I need to bring right here the handler for the change. So on change, I want to update the to-do, not this. I want to update the single to-do that I send here. I still don't have this function right here. Let me bring it. So this function right here it's going to make sure that every time that I call it, it's going to fetch in our dynamic route handler to patch the to-dos. What it's going to do is just going to update the completed property to the opposite of whatever it was before. So let me go to the dynamic route handler, which I haven't been working on. But I already know that the first thing I need to do is to import next response. And I also need to import my Prisma from db.ts file. And this is what it's going to be like. Here, I'm sending an ID. Oh, I don't need the next response yet. Oh yeah, this is the wrong next response. I need not API, but just the next response. No? From next server. Now this is the right one. Yeah, next response from next server. The next API response is another thing. So yeah, I'm sending here the specific to do. So from that to do, right here, I'm grabbing the ID and I'm sending the ID of this to do. So here, Prisma understands that this specific to do that I'm sending the ID, which is the unique identifier, every time I'm sending him, it's going to do a specific action, which in here it's updating it. So let's test it. If now I check the to-do was completed and I reload the page, nothing happens, which means that it stays the same because it's stored in the database. So even though I reload the page, my update has been applied. Now let me do the same with the delete button. I need to make it work. And to make it work, it's very simple. Here, in the same dynamic route handler, let me bring this function. This function will tell the one that I used to update the checkbox. What it does right here is that it tells Prisma to update in a specific place. So it will update based on the ID that I send the property complete to whatever thing I sent as completed here. Oh, not here, sorry. Here. So what I said that was going to be completed was the opposite of whatever it was before. And now, this function, to delete a single to-do, what it does is specifically grab the ID of the to-do, and it will tell Prisma to simply delete a single to-do, the one that I sent on the ID. Now that the route handler is ready, let me bring the function here. But first, I need to go down to the bottom, and I need to add an onClick event. So on click, I want you to call this function that is going to be called delete to do. And I'm going to send you the specific to do. But this is not the right way. If I do this, this is going to be calling this function over and over and over again. I need to send this function and then it'll be called. and I'll bring the function to handle it right here. So every time that I click that button, it's going to send the fetch request with the delete method with the ID, and it's going to trigger in the route handler to call Prisma to delete this to do. Let me test it. I'm going to delete this one. Hola. Reload. Mass. Reload. And it is working. It is perfectly working. So right now, let's see what we have going on. I am able to create a new to-do, and it's being stored in my database, and then it's being displayed in my list of to-dos. And then from the list, I can grab a single to-do and I can update it or delete it. And if I reload, the changes stay. This is a great progress. Now that all the to-dos are properly working, I would like to be back to the home page and let me work on it. I can close all this because I'm not going to need it now. And let me open this page.tsx. I also need to open a terminal. And maybe I need a new one. Let's get to the fun part. I'm going to be using the Hanko docs to guide me on how to integrate the components. This is going to be so much fun. The first thing is that I need to install the Team Hanko Elements package. So let me copy this and bring it here. While this is installing, I already noticed that I need to bring my Hanko API URL. This is what I talked to you in the beginning. You're gonna need this to make your project being able to display and to bring the components. So I will copy mine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to storage my Hanko API URL here in my .m file. And I'm gonna call it just the way they call it here. It's gonna be my next public Hanko API URL. It's gonna be equal to my API URL. This is great. This is installed. I would also love to just copy and paste. I'm very tempted to do this. Most of the times you follow the docs, the examples they have are not very accurate. So most of the time I am testing it, they somehow don't work. So I will just copy and paste what Hanko has here to see how it works. Inside of the components, I want another directory. Wait. Called Hanko components. And there I want first, let me call it register tsx. And let me just bring everything that Hanko has there. This is all I need. I need to import useEffect from React, the register function from the Team Hanko elements, and I have the constant where I'm storing the Hanko API. Because here in the register function, you send the Hanko API as a parameter to register the Hanko Auth component. I never explained what this was. So Hanko is an open source authentication solution that it's very easy to work with, and it provides two components. One is this one that I'm trying to bring right now, which is the Hanko Auth component, and this one handles the user's login. So sign in, sign up, this will handle it. And then the second component will be the Hanko profile. We will work with it, and it's, of course, as it says, it's gonna manage emails or passwords. I didn't like the inconsistency of having here Hanko Auth as being exported and the register name here in the file. So I just change it here so it will be matching. And this is giving me an error. Why? String is undefined, not assignable to a string, so it could maybe be a string or yeah, an empty string. This is better. Okay, now let me just try to bring this into my homepage. And I will just replace this by my Hanko Auth component. Here it is. I really like it. It looks clean. Let me just make a few changes around because the whole thing looks very empty. I have this div and I want to add a container, maybe, right? Let me make it with a width of 400 pixels. I wanted to have a padding all around of 10. Love it. And I would like it to have a small shadow because I don't want it to have a border maybe. Or do I want a border? I don't dislike it. Border. I don't like this super square corner, so yeah. And I want a little bit of shadow. Small, medium. Is this too much? Small, maybe medium shadow without a border. Yeah. I'll keep the border. Yeah, I like it this way. Very great. As you can see right now, I have two options to log in with my component. I configured some things in my cloud. In my cloud dashboard, I went through the settings, and in identity providers, I enabled Google. I could do the same with GitHub or Apple, but I wanted to have a bit of options to show you guys what you could play with. So yeah, I could log in with Google, one of my accounts. Successful. And it will then, will it? Oh, of course, it's not redirecting me nowhere because I haven't specified what to do after a successful login. Let me now tell the Hanko Auth component what to do. They have the next step right here covering this. So they tell you can define an event callback. You can subscribe to specific events, and when these events happen or you listen to them, then you can do something. And here they are explaining exactly how to do it. First, there is this function created, which is called redirect after login. It's going to be a callback that is going to be triggered every time this event has been listened. So every time that the Hanko instance is going to tell me that there is a completed authentication, it's going to redirect to the right place. In this example, it's redirecting to the dashboard. I want to redirect to my to-dos. Let me just bring all this code that I need. Yeah. Let me just do the same thing I did before. I've just copied the whole thing that Hanko has in the docs to see if it works or to test how many changes it's going to need. I go back here. I replace this again. I don't like it. This type of error, this is saying that they are not default type property Hanko does not exist. Because here, it says the team Hanko elements has no exported members of Hanko. I think this issue has something to do with the update of the types, but it's not making anything break. So let me move on. And instead of dashboard, I wanted to redirect me to my to-do pages. Yes, great. So it is successfully redirecting me to my to-do page. Let me go back. And it's gonna keep on telling me that I have successfully logged in. Well, the Hanko auth component properly works, and on a successful login, it will redirect me to the proper page, which in this case is the to-dos, the to-do page. Let's move on. The next Hanko component that I want to register is the profile component. This one will handle, the management of everything user related. Well, the user will be able to manage the emails, the passkeys, storage, and the deletion of the account. Let me call this profile component tsx. And same as I did before, let me just bring this here. I want to import this component on a different way though. This one together with the logout functionality. Because so far, I only have, I have one way in, but I have 0 ways out of here where I am, which is my to-do page. And I want to do that with the logout functionality. So let me create the following. Right here, I want, So here I want to create a logout button. And I'm going to bring, first of all, what's going on here? So I am importing some hooks from React, and I'm using use router from navigation, so I'm redirecting somewhere. And I'm again importing Hanko from team Hanko elements. I have the Hanko API key, API URL, sorry, and I'm creating a function. So this function is importing, so I'm creating a Hanko instance here. And with this Hanko instance, I can have access to the user. And then I say to that user to log out. So when I log out, I'm using the use router to send the user to the login page again. And refreshing after redirecting. It's a button, and yes, I like this. Let me bring it with me. So now I have this button, and I want to create another button for the profile right here. So let me, next to it, call it profile button. Because I don't really want to have a full page dedicated to the profile component. So here I moved a bit ahead and I put together a button that on click is going to open the profile the Hanko profile component. So let me move forward and go back to the to-do page to bring them together, profile component and also the logout button. And I want a div. Let me bring them. Let me bring, yes, profile button. And as you can, and logout. As you can see, I had them already imported on top because I didn't want it to be breaking well. This is looking so bad. Let's add some little styling to this. I want it to be absolute. Top 10. I want some spaces in the axis of, and maybe I want it to be not centered, but maybe left. Also 10. 20. That's good enough. Let's test some things out. Let's for the first time see the profile, the Hanko profile component. Yes, here you can manage your primary email. You can add or edit here. And then you can also manage your passkeys. And maybe let me also add here the flex property. I think I like it better. Okay. And I want to do some things with the profile button. I think I want to make it also absolute. Absolute. Also top maybe 20. Why is it so small? Left 10. Let me give it a width of 550 pixels. That looks better. I want a background color of white. And I want some padding. I want some padding on the Y axis of 4. Yeah, that's not bad. And I want padding on the axis of 8. I like it. Let me do the same with the rounded corners. And let me make it rounded XL. Very nice. I like this. Good. So this is the Hanko profile component in action with this nice button that I like the idea of the button because I didn't want to create a whole page for the profile. So it's always nice to have a button with a drop down that will show me everything that is inside, and it will disappear. Now let's test. Oh, could not be found. So now if I want to test the logout button, first I need to check if I am redirecting to the right places. Let me go back to the components. Where is my logout button? And I'm redirecting to the login. I don't have a login page right here. What I have is my home page, which is, yeah, this slash. Now it should be ready. If I log out, even though I have a great system working smoothly, I can log in and it will redirect me to the to-dos, and then I log out and it's send me back to the login page. The app is not secure. If I just go up here and I type to do, it will take me to the to do pages, which means that my to dos are not secure. So this is the moment to bring the middleware to the game. So the middleware is the code that is going to be running before any other code is running. Before, you used to code your own your own middleware. Now Next.js came with the middleware file, which at the root of your directory or your project, your app, you need to call it. You need to call it middleware dot yes, and it must export a function called middleware. It could be normal or it could be async. They explain here that the JBT verification with Hanko and your next application. They use a hosted library, but you can be free to choose any other suitable library. This middleware will ensure secure access to specific routes, like dashboard, for example here, will be to-dos for me. Checking for a valid JBT. Let me copy this and test it right inside my middleware. So what is going on here? I know this is being imported from Jose. So what is going on here is you're using JBT verify to verify that it's the right token. Before getting deeper into it, when you have a successful authentication with Hanko, they will give you a token inside of a cookie, right? So this token has different things. To know that that's the right token, that's why we're using Jose. Jose will verify that this is the right token. How? Easy. There are some things that we will need to let them know that this is the right token. With the Hanko API URL, we're going to call this function from Jose called create remote JV key set. We will call this function create remote JW key set, sorry, sending the Hanko API URL as a parameter to the well-known jwks.json to get the JSON web key sets, to then send this together with the value of the token that was inside of the cookie that Hanko put there. Together, we're sending the value of the token together with the key set that we're getting from the Hanko API to the well-known JV KS, and sending them together, we will verify that this is the right token for us to have access to whatever that this middleware is protecting. I hope I'm explaining myself the right way. Let me remove this, replace it by slash, which is where I'm having the login, and this will be replaced by todo. Now, let me see if this is accurate and working. Of course, can't resolve Jose because I forgot a very important part. I'm not installing the Jose package. Let me go right here, click in Jose library, and let me bring it here. Yes. And now it should be working. Let me test it again. If I try to go to the /todo, it will redirect me to the login page. Let me test it again. This is great. This is working as it should. Let me log in again. Oopsie, sorry. I have other projects going on and it was the wrong user for this. Great. This is working perfectly. But there is a problem. It doesn't matter what user is coming. It doesn't matter what user is logged in. Right now it's another user. I can still see the to-dos, the same to-dos. It doesn't matter who's logged in, the same to-dos are being returned. So we need to fix this. And we're going to fix this by binding the to-dos or linking the to-dos to the right user ID. This is why this constant here is useful, because right now it's not doing anything. But if I log this verified JVT, what is it that I'm going to see inside? What is inside of it? Here. Yes, this is what I wanted to see. If I look at what is inside, this is nothing but the JVT verified and decoded. So here I can see the three parts of the JVT, which is the payload, where the user information is, the protected header, which is including the type of signature that it has, which is the algorithm RS256 type of JVT, and the keys. And it's returning a true. It should return a boolean when you're trying to verify. So it would return a true if it's verified. And I think that it will just not go if it can't be verified, or they would throw an error. I can't really confirm right now. But the part that I'm interested in is in the payload, because in the payload, I have information of who the user is. Here, the sub from subject is the person which I am interested in, because this is the user ID which I need for connecting the to-dos to the right user. So let me go back here to the route handler that is handling the creation what I need to do. And I need to do some things here to connect the to-dos to the right user. First, I need to import two new things here. One is cookies from, from not Google. From Next and headers. And the other one is I need to import Jose. So I will just import this, everything, nothing as Jose from the Jose library. So I'm bringing this function to give me the user ID. And here it says, I want the token to be equal to whatever the value of the cookie with the name of Hanko is. Then payload is going to be equal to Jose bringing the decode.jpt function to tell me what is inside of the token that I'm just passing. And it's going to return the subject of the payload, which we said before that it's the user ID. Now I need to update this function to tell Prisma, every time you're creating a new to-do, I want you to know that I only want this to-do to be created when I'm giving you the user ID and I want you to add the user ID to this to-do. So let's go for it. First thing I want to do is bring here constante, user ID is going to be equal to awaiting for user ID. So once I have this here, I want to add this user ID to the rest of the properties that I'm passing whenever I'm creating a new to-do. It should be as simple as adding it at the end here after the complete property. And I'll just say I want the user ID to be equal at the user ID. But this is breaking. Why is it complaining? Because we haven't updated it in our to-dos model. So let me go back to Prisma. It's like if I try to do it here now, it is going to break. If I try to add something new here, it's not responding because I'm giving it something that shouldn't be there. So let's go back to the Prisma schema. And I need to now update my Prisma schema. And I need to tell my Prisma schema that there's a new property that I need to be aware of. I can just write it here. And I'm going to say the user ID is going to be string. So now I've told Prisma to know that I'm going to have a different property. And I need to then run a migration. So this schema is run against the database. And then also the database knows that a new property is going to come. X Yes. Creation update. So now it's supposed to be in sync. Let me start the developer. And let me see. It's still breaking. Okay, let me test it. Yes, it's working back. I was just not hitting the right prism command. So I can close this. I can also remove from here this log that I had to know where the user ID was. So yes, now it's connected to the right to-dos, to the right user ID, sorry. But one last thing is that when I am calling all the to-dos from the to-do page, I'm just calling them all. I need to filter them out, and I need to only call the to-dos for the right user. And this is how I'm doing it. First, I need to import the user ID from the route handler. And here, when I'm telling Prisma to find many, well, first let me here. User ID is going to be equal to, I'll wait for the user ID function. And here in find many, I need to tell Prisma where is Prisma finding many? What many is Prisma sending to me? And I need to find them from the same user ID, which is going to be the ones that are equal yes. And this should be it. Let me try. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm always by default will be testing with words in Spanish. So I'm here with this user, Mr. Lita. So let me log out. And let me sign in with another account. And it is absolutely working. If I refresh the page and I log out and I go back in, and I go back in with another user, I'm seeing the proper to-dos. And this is all I wanted to show you guys. I wanted to guide you on how to integrate Hanko with an app. I don't know if you're with me in this, but the integration of the Hanko components, it's very easy. I love how the docs are so accurate and like everything works smoothly when you follow the guide. And then I was also trying to guide you on how to build this functional and easy to-do app. I hope you liked it and I see you in the next one.